Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Swami Narayan Bhagwan Jai. Akshar Purushottam Maharaj Jai. Radha Krishna Devani Jai. Siyavar Ramchandra Bhagwan Jai. Umapati Mahadevani Jai. Guru Hari Pramukh Swami Maharaj Jai. Guru Hari Mahan Swami Maharaj Jai. In the divine presence of Bhagavan Swami Narayan, in the equally divine presence of my Guru Hari Pramukh Swami Maharaj, Guru Hari Mahan Swami Maharaj, in the revered presence of sadhus, most esteemed presence of two wonderful speakers, and in the prestigious presence of all of you who have gathered here this morning. Personally, for me, this morning was thoughtful. The reason being that we discussed the three aspects which are very dear and important to South Africa: change, uncertainty, and now diversity. Perhaps very few countries in this world would have undergone the drastic and quantum leap of changes and uncertainties right from the implosion of apartheid and the explosion of diversity as South Africa. But I also welcome and value all of your presence, not just as the CEOs, but as individual thinkers and leaders who are going to bring a change, as Mr. Whitfield so importantly emphasized. So I would like to begin by giving the two wonderful speakers who are both thought-provoking, precise, and to the point, by giving them a big round of applause for really making this morning very special and precious for all of us. As we talk about change, I also want to ask you to think that if you go back into history, history tells us that everything changes. So it's nothing new that things change in South Africa. I think in every country, if you go back to their own history, everything changes. I still remember once reading that they found an old tablet, an Egyptian clay tablet written in hieroglyphics, which said that children nowadays are not so well behaved as they used to be. So everything changes and every country has a different set of changes. And as we learned from Mr. Bruce Whitfield, that nothing is certain, not even uncertainty. But if you look at history, history tells us that ever since man, the early Homo sapien, he jumped down from the trees and he walked erect. He has been constantly stoked by change and uncertainty. Whether his life as a hunter-gatherer, as he evolved into the farmer, then the villager, the settler, the city dweller, and now as we embark upon our journey into the interplanetary traveler, change and uncertainty is always there. But interestingly, For a change, historians, psychologists, sociologists, and anthropologists are all on the same page to tell us that it is not the cognitive powers of man, this ability to think, and it is not also man's unique ability to invent. The secret of survival for human beings, they say, is man's ability to communicate, to connect, to collaborate, and to create a consciousness that we as a group are a single human race. No two mosquitoes ever feel that they are special species, and no two cockroaches. Even the tigers and the lions, they never feel that they are the supreme race, despite the fact we call them the king of jungles. Does the lion know he's the king of the jungles? But look at man. Just because we can connect ourselves and create a consciousness that we are a one single human race, we have the ability, despite our dissimilarities, to rise beyond that and create a unity in diversity that gives us the power to rule the world. That brings me to my topic, unity in diversity. But I also want to emphasize one fact which is very important to all our hearts, that alone man is nothing. I know we've been just told that individuals can make changes, but individuals can't make changes without the help and support of everybody. Alone, we are nothing. Even if I make you the king of the world and I ask you to go to the Sahara and stay, alone, without the subject, the king is nothing. So alone, man is nothing. Together, we are everything. Let me emphasize, we call ourselves the crown of creation. But shall I tell you that physically man is not the most powerful or the strongest of animals. Bulls are stronger and more powerful. Man is not the fastest. Horses are faster. Man is not also the most fearless. We think we are the fearless. Nope. Perhaps even a cockroach is more fearless. If you want to just test it out, put your wife into a small room with a single cockroach. And she'll start giving you fears. If man is supposed to be the supreme race, we are not the strongest, and we are not the fastest, and we are not definitely the most fearless. But yet, when we feel connected together as a single human race, we have been able to overcome all the adversities and challenges that we have faced. So I also want to tell you very clearly that despite that, we face challenges, uncertainties, and so many things that we've never even thought of. But it's not new. Every time a new invention has come along, suddenly we feel we are on the brink of the edge, suddenly looking down into the abyss, not just South Africa, the whole world. We feel there's not a situation or something that's going to save us. But all I want to emphasize is, despite the fact man is the only species that can contemplate the end of the world, we still choose to do little or nothing. I want to ask you that there are certain questions you as thinkers and we as thinkers should ask. At no point in history there have been more peace conferences or talks about peace or books about peace and campaigns about peace. At no point in human history there have been more awareness about peace than why the largest earning industry in the world is armaments. We should ask these big questions. At no point in history or human history there have been more ways of entertainment, films, videos, parks, tourist destinations, things to keep us engaged and entertained. Then why? The surest selling drug in the world is antidepressant. We should ask. We are a bored civilization. At no point in history, man has been more connected. Come on. It's not just snail mail, it's not just paper mail, it's not just email, it's WhatsApp, Instagrams, Twitters, everything. At no point in history we have been more connected, then why do we feel so lonely? The basic questions, if we just sit and keep asking as an armchair philosophers or simple intellectual fantasies, nothing's going to happen. As we have gathered here today, and I do believe all of you are thinkers and leaders, we need to take personal and moral ownership of the issues that we face. When we do that, then we'll be able to usher in a change. And this moral and personal ownership is something that will drive us. Let me give you an example that just to think doesn't make a difference. They say because we are intelligent and we can invent and because we are professionals, does it give us the power to give or bring transformation? There's an interesting story, it's imaginary, so I'm underwriting it. It's completely imaginary. Nothing is true about this story, but this was told to me by former Solicitor General of Canada, Bob Kaplan. He told me this little story which I would like to share. It's an imaginary story, but the message is very real. There were 3 friends, very good buddies. All of 3 of them decided to study management. Because they were gifted and able, they got into the best management schools in the world. One entered Harvard School of Business, the other LSE, London School of Economics, and the third, IIM Ahmedabad. It's also a very famous business school. One was an American, one was a Brit, and one was an Indian. After graduating, all 3 of them decided to be padris, priests. Imagine, huh? Don't think that those who turn to religion are failures in life. So, I think Bruce will have material for tomorrow. But still, so all 3 of them decided to be padris at 3 different places. They opened up their small churches, one in India, one in England, and one in America. After 20 years, they connected to each other and they said, let's have a school reunion. Like we have school reunion, friends reunion. They said, let's sit down and talk. So they gave a time, a precise place, and we'll get together and we'll talk about what's happened with our lives. Obviously, at a given time, the Brit was perfectly dot on time. He chugged along in his old Austin Morris, and he just arrived on time. The American padri, he came 15 minutes late in a long limousine, and he turned to the British padri and said, hey, why are you so early? Americans feel wherever they come, they're on time. The world is either ahead or behind. Typical Indian padri priest, he came at typical Indian standard time, half an hour late. We started our event also half an hour late, so forgive us. So typical Indian padri, he rolls into a bright gold shimmering Rolls Royce. So all 3 of them are watching each other, one in an Austin Morris, one in a Rolls, and one in a long limousine. After the cursory initial talks, they said, as priests, everybody confesses to us. It's about time we confess to each other. So how come, they're thinking he's got an old car, he's got a middle car, he's got something glittering gold. So the British padri said, look, after every Sunday, my ceremonies and my sermons, I take out my hat, pass it around, and people donate generously. How much space do I occupy on this earth? A little small circle. So then I take all the money, throw it up. That which falls into the circle, I keep. The rest, I give it away in charity. That's how I got my Austin Morris. The American says, I do the same thing, Sunday sermons, take my hat out, pass it along, all the money comes in. We Americans don't believe in circles, we draw lines. Either you are with us or you are against us. So I said, I take the money, throw it up, and all that money comes on to this side of the line I keep, and the rest I donate in charity. The Indian says, well, I do the same thing, Sunday ceremony and sermons. I keep saying in our Sunday assembly that God is up there, He's watching all over us. I take the hat, take the money, throw the money up, that which God wants, He keeps. The rest comes to me. I don't want to enter into a moral debate or a spiritual debate whether these padris were right or wrong. It's an imaginary story. But however, I do want to think about something. That same age, same ability, same education, same profession. But because their interpretation of life and laws were different, because their outlook was different, the shades of success, the joys of life differ immensely. What we want to consider here today is, are you the guy that draws small circles, isolates himself from the rest of the world? Are you the guy who draws a straight line and divides the world? Or are you the guy that doesn't draw a circle or any straight lines and he invites the world? The most important fact is, if you as corporate leaders and CEOs, because you are in the driver's seat, if you decide to create an environment that is open, inviting, and acceptable, then you have the power to change not just the corporation or your company, but the lives and the houses of the thousands of people who work for you. Unity in diversity is not an option. We don't have a choice. The world is moving so fast and is coming so close, and we are so connected that we don't even have a choice whether do you agree or disagree. You don't have a choice. And because of that, I want to share some important highlights and ideas which can help you and me and all of us to change the way we think. You don't have to change your profession. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to change a country. But can you change the way we look at the world? The most important factor, practically, as I have learned as we move around the world, meeting people and simple people, big people, middle people, all people. The fact that we have learned is very simple, and I would like to summarize in just 5 important ideas. The first, as CEOs or heads of companies, we always think of passion being very important for any CEO. If you don't have passion, if you don't love the job that you do, if you don't have a passion for an idea or a goal, then you won't be successful. I want you to tweak it a little. I believe compassion is sometimes more important than passion. Because compassion will give you a heart to care for each and every one of your people. You want unity? However diverse or different people may be, but if you have compassion, you will be able to care for one and all. Let me give you the small magic. I think all of you might have heard of the company Alcoa, Aluminum Corporation of America. It was in the dumps, no profit, completely gone. The board of directors decided to call a very young, powerful CEO. I think you've heard of his name, Paul O'Neill. He walks in the first board meeting and the entire board is expecting huge charts, huge figures, how he's going to turn the company around. Paul O'Neill said nothing. He just took only 5 minutes for the first meeting and he said, Alcoa, there's too many accidents, it's unsafe, too many people getting injured. So my only priority is not profits, to make sure that nobody gets injured. In any company or any branch that we have, if somebody dies, the general manager is sacked instantly. The second law, if somebody is injured, the number of days he's not there, his pay would be doubled. The guy who is responsible for that injury, his pay would be halved and that pay would be adjusted. The third thing he said, that if somebody is not there anymore, I personally will visit their family members. And the fourth, he said, that if somebody recovers well in less time, we'll give him a bonus. All these guys, the board of directors, they came out and they said, we've got a hippie in our boardroom. This guy is nuts. Nothing about profits, nothing about figures, nothing about the future plans. And he's just talking about safety. But you know what happened? In the next 6 months, injuries suddenly decreased. The man on the ground felt that we have somebody at the top who cares about our lives. Compassion. And because of that, there was less absenteeism. Because of that, work hours increased, production increased. And I want to tell you, in less than 13 years, he turned the entire company with a profit or a turnover of $27 billion. Why? Compassion is more important than passion. Care for your people and unity will be incidental. How do you have compassion? Something that was taught to me personally by one of the greatest leaders that India has produced in the league of Nelson Mandela. It would be not just Gandhi, but also Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. I remember when he came to Sarangpur, he had written a book on our spiritual head, Pramukh Swami. The title of the book was Transcendence. How do we rise beyond the fences that divide human beings? But when he came along, I know it was afternoon. It was his first day of Roja. He's a Muslim, practicing Muslim. And he was fasting. The afternoon was so hot and humid. At about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, after his lecture from the stage, he was going down. Now listen to this very carefully because it's touched me very deeply. As he was going down, a young boy from the village who could hardly speak English, Kalam did not know any other local language apart from his own Tamil tongue. So this little boy in Gujarat, he runs, he breaks the cordon, and he's dressed in, shabby shirt and shabby shorts. He comes down to Kalam, and from his pocket, he brings out a crumpled paper, and he gives that paper to the former president of India and says, autograph. The paper is crumpled. I was standing next to Kalam. Kalam uncreases the paper, and he asks for a pen. Resting the paper on the wall, he signs his name and gives it to this little boy. He's just 5-6-year-old boy. The boy once again crumples the paper and puts it back in his pocket. I was standing there and I thought, this was a complete waste of exercise. And Kalam turns to me and he says, Brahmavihari, he's a very close friend of mine personally as well. He said, Brahmavihari, never disappoint a child because these are his first years on this earth. If you disappoint a child, he's going to get a negative impression of the whole humanity. As we went along, 5-10 minutes to his car, there was a huge crowd and villagers had gathered. And there was an old man, almost 92-year-old, a typical villager. He's raising his stick and he's shouting his name, Kalam, Kalam. And Kalam turned to him. The security people were rushing him into the car. And Kalam called this old man, and this old man said, કે મારા દીકરાના દીકરાએ આપની હાથે ફોટો પડાવો છે. I'll translate. My son's son, my grandson wants a picture with you. The security is upset, everybody is upset. Kalam said, bring him. His grandson could not be found. And it took almost 5-10 minutes to find the grandson who didn't even care about the picture. You understand the situation? The grandfather wanted a picture of his grandson with Kalam. The grandson didn't even care about Kalam. He brings him along, takes a picture, and then Kalam turns to me and says, Brahmavihari, never disappoint an old man because these are his last years on this earth. Compassion has to be complete. You can't be selective. So I ask you, as leaders of the future and present, that more than passion, focus on compassion, you will bring a change wherever you are. The second most important thing which I feel is every CEO or leader needs to have energy. If you're not energetic, if you're not the leader, if you're not the one who's burning the midnight oil, if you're not the guy who's always there first to come in and last to leave, nobody's going to listen to the CEOs or corporate heads. So, energy is important, but I still believe synergy is far more important than energy. It focuses back on the topic that I want to discuss, unity and diversity. You don't have a choice to bring the energies of all the people around you and see the power it creates. As an experiment, I just want to ask you, because we're all intelligent people and nothing's going to appear on the pie charts, don't worry. But as an experiment, I want to ask you, what's the probability of all of us falling to sleep at the same time? You tell me, Swamiji, if you go along too long, the probability gets higher. But don't worry. Don't worry. So what's the probability? Now let's be really serious. What's the probability of all of us going to sleep at the same time? There is some. You can't say zero. Very little probability of all of us falling to sleep at the same time. Okay. But then I ask you, then what's the probability if all of us are asleep? What's the probability of all of us dreaming at the same time? And then what's the probability us falling asleep at the same time, dreaming at the same time, or having the same dream at the same time? Now tell me, what's the probability of that? It's zero. All of us, even now, if I just go on through your minds, the thoughts are completely different. So what's the probability of us having the same dream at the same time? And then also the sequence of the dream at the same time. That we're all in the forest and suddenly we're chased by a tiger. All of us climb the tree at the same time in different minds. And then suddenly, the tiger is just about to pounce on us and all of us wake up at the same time in the same hall and suddenly talk to each other. And all of us discover that we were all chased by the same tiger. Imagine if we sync ourselves to this level, the energy in the same room would be infinite. Synergy means not just lining your people together, but unification of minds. Energy is important, but synergy perhaps is even more important, that can give you the power. That makes you smaller, but makes all of us larger. There's an ancient story in the Hindu scriptures of Ramanuja. Ramanujacharya, he goes to his guru, his spiritual master, and he says, can you teach me the technique of going to heaven straight from earth? And the spiritual master says, here, take this mantra, speak this mantra, keep it private. If you speak this mantra again, you will reach heaven. And then he asks his guru that anybody who takes this mantra or speaks this mantra or chants this mantra will go to heaven? The guru says, yes, anybody. But you have to keep this mantra privately to yourself and not reveal it to anybody. This young man, like we were told, he was a rebel. He didn't listen to his guru. So suddenly next morning they find him standing on the roof, making the whole village chant that mantra together. The guru rushes to him and said, hey, why did you reveal this mantra to the entire people? He said, but you said that anybody who chants this mantra will go to heaven. He says, yes. So all these villagers will go to heaven. He said, yes. But you will go to hell because you revealed it. He said, I'm ready to go to hell if millions of others can go to heaven. That should be the synergy level that a CEO should create. Are you ready to sacrifice a part of yourself to bring everybody else on board? So remember, synergy is more important than individual energy. The third, which is also very important, I would like to leave you with that. Every corporate or corporation or company or CEO would focus on profits. I do want you to do that. I'm not here to say money is bad. No. But more important than wealthiness is happiness. And I want to be very frank, that happiness of your people first, not just your shareholders, the people who work for you. You know what happiness can do? I have just come from the Middle East, UAE, as we are making a temple, as it was just announced. It's one of the most affluent and wealthiest nations on this earth. But they've started a ministry for happiness and a ministry for tolerance. A ministry of happiness. And I met the minister of happiness and I asked him, I said, what do you do in this ministry of happiness? Because the whole world feels that whatever you've got, they want it for their happiness. And after getting everything, you are creating a ministry of happiness. So what do you do in this ministry of happiness? You know what they told us? Very interestingly. They said, happiness is more important than wealthiness. Why? It's all our systems, all our roads, all our infrastructure, all our securities, all our GDP, does it generate the happiness that it is supposed to generate? If it doesn't, that's the role of happiness ministry, to make sure everything at the end generates happiness. They've got a system, happy construction. You know what they write? Initially, they used to write the tallest building, the biggest building, this building. Now they write that this building has had 0 accidents. 0 accidents meaning happiness construction. They also say 0 arguments. This project had 0 arguments. That's very unlikely. But 0 arguments, that's the goal of raising the bar of happiness of your people. You know, when we were in nursery schools and in kindergarten, I know in England, we were always taught about this simple story, which always went like this, that there was a king, and he fought hard battle, okay? And he succeeded, and then they lived happy ever after. We were always told that if you work hard, you succeed, and then what you get? There's no twist in this. If you work hard and you succeed, success follows, and what do you get? Happiness. We were always told that hard work leads to success and success leads to happiness. I think you need to change that equation a little. Think different. Because only if you are happy, you work hard. And success is a byproduct. If you generate enough happiness, definitely people will work hard. The problem with any economy, any country, the general level of happiness is so low that you can't bring the right changes that you want, and you live in a pool of uncertainty. So we need to understand generating happiness is more important, and that is a state of mind. So as I look around and as we find around, and I'll tell you very frankly, I read a research which was published in 2016. And interestingly, for your knowledge, I just want to share it with you. You can Google it as well. What makes a person happy and what makes a person sad? And the research was not done by a religious organization, because we think that we have a monopoly, that only religion can make you happy and nobody else can. Nope. So the research was conducted by London School of Economics, LSE, and Paris School of Economics, PSE. And God forbid, this was perhaps the first time they agreed, because England and France, they never agree. Okay? The French, just on the side, I want to tell you that when we built our first traditional Hindu temple in England, in Neasden, everybody was so happy in England and everywhere. And France, the French newspaper Le Monde, they ran a headline, after we made the traditional Hindu temple in the heart of London, they read a headline that the empire strikes back. For 200 years, the British ruled and ruined India. What a sweet way of taking revenge by putting a temple in the heart of London. So the French and the Brits have permanently agreed to disagree. But in this survey, both of them agreed. You know what their agreement was? You'll be shocked by the figures. Go and read this research. After all the research they did, they said, education, all of us are. education plays 4% role in a person's personal happiness or sadness. And don't look sad about it, because if two husband and wife are doctors, that doesn't mean that they have guaranteed happiness. Money, they write, plays 3% role in a person's personal happiness and sadness. If you're below the poverty line, then it plays a bigger role. But once you get enough, then it just plays 3% role. But then they came out with the fact that 80% of the role for a person's personal happiness or sadness is played by social relationships. How do you get along with your wife, your children, your friends, your competitors? How do you get along? Getting along means unity in diversity. It's not an option. It's a choiceless situation. So coming down, that happiness is more important than wealthiness, you will be able to generate that unity amongst your people. The fourth, which I would like to point out, is also very important. Eventuality versus spirituality. You'll ask me, the Swamiji, what do you mean? See, as leaders, you set up everything. You create a system. You put the people in place. You have everything given out like a blueprint and a master plan. Then as leaders, you also think that now eventuality will play the role. You know, you can't explain everything because you're not the mastermind who creates everything. So ultimately, we leave it to fate, as we call it. Sometimes people call it providence. Sometimes people call it luck. But even leaders have to leave things to fate. But instead of saying everything has just an eventuality, if you condition yourself and understand and draw energy from spiritual dimension, and you will feel spirituality also gives you that base and power to withstand all the vicissitudes and change in life. How, I want to tell you. What is the difference between a national leader and a universal leader? What is the difference between a great leader and a legendary leader? And I'll tell you, the difference are a set of values which are moral and spiritual. I'll take you back in 1942 when General Smuts was having dinner with Churchill, Prime Minister Churchill. You know their relationship. Churchill loved Smuts so much that privately he had told people, in case I die, the British government should induct General Smuts into the parliament through the back door and make him the Prime Minister of England. This was their friendship. So General Smuts and Churchill were dining, both great leaders in their time and in their way had an impact on this earth. But you know, the personal physician of Churchill, Lord Moran, he makes a note in his personal diaries. I've read these diaries. He makes a personal note in his diaries as he's there. General Smuts talks to Churchill and says, and I want to quote, and I don't want to miss a single word, and he says that Gandhi, he said, do you know Gandhi? And Churchill says, I don't want to know him. This is Churchill. And he says, Gandhi is a man of God. Smuts talks to Churchill. Gandhi is a man of God. You and I are mundane people. Gandhi has appealed to religious motives. You never have. And that is where you have failed. I don't want to compare leaders, but I want to also emphasize that after winning the war, Churchill was voted out of office. And never ever going into office, Gandhi is still considered the Mahatma of not just India, but savior of the world in a different way. What a set of moral or spiritual values can do, you can never imagine. Profits are not alone. Success is not alone. Can you create a lifestyle of your own that is based on a set of moral and spiritual values? When Dr. Kalam had come to Pramukh Swami, our spiritual head, and I think it's again very important to pay attention to this, he came with a master plan of developing India. We're talking about development of South Africa. And don't think India doesn't have its fair share of challenges, of uncertainties and changes. Of course. And there are so many radical forces also working. So when Dr. Kalam, as the chief scientific advisor to the Prime Minister of India, just before he became the President of India, he came to Pramukh Swami and he said, Swamiji, 500 thinkers, not less, of every field from accounts to science to engineering. 500 thinkers have got along for almost 1 year. We have been thinking in which areas India should develop so India becomes a great nation. And he identified. The first was, he said, health and education. The second, agriculture. The third, infrastructure and energy. The fourth, he said, information technology and communication. The fifth, he said, critical technology like nanotechnology, genetic engineering. You don't need so many people, but they're critical for the world development, artificial intelligence. So as he laid out the plan, he said, Swamiji, these are the 5 areas 500 thinkers for 1 year have come up with. If somebody tells you this, do you think you have any chances of advising anything? They say, yeah, fine, great, we'll pray for you. You know, my spiritual guru, Pramukh Swami, he spoke in Gujarati when I was translating. Swami said, Sahib nako kai khute she. You know what that means? Tell Kalam Sahib that something is missing. How would I have the guts to tell the greatest scientist of India and to say that something is missing? And then Kalam understood and he said, what is he saying? I said, he's saying something is missing. He said, what's missing? Pramukh Swami said, faith in God. At that time, Kalam did not take it down so well. He was suspicious. He said, what do you mean? How do you mean faith in God? For the development of a nation? You know what Pramukh Swami answered later on as we discussed? He said, tell Dr. Kalam that a nation cannot be evaluated by its roads, buildings and institutions. A nation is evaluated by the character and caliber of its people. The main product of a nation are not gold, diamonds or oil or armaments. The main product of a nation are the people we bring out. So long as South Africa keeps churning out leaders like Mandela and great individuals, I think you have a wonderful future despite all the challenges. The type of people are most important. What good is it to have the best quality of facilities and third-rate human beings? So morality and spirituality comes through faith in God. So eventuality versus spirituality. Add a little bit of spirituality, whichever religion, whichever set of faiths, whichever moral values you believe in, add those to your own life and see them percolate in your own company. The fifth, and I believe is more important, and you might disagree with me completely and you're free to. We've always been told, speakers and motivational speakers and spiritual people will tell you that walk the talk. Living is more important than speaking. People will tell you if you live something, that's where it ends. I slightly disagree with that. Because I believe that something more important than living is believing. You'll say, Swamiji, but how can believing be more important than living? Shall I tell you? One of the biggest problems of our earth, and perhaps even in this country or in every country, is we have stopped believing in our future. God has instilled us with hope, the ability to dream. If you take the Stone Age man, with his limited knowledge and his limited capacity, do you think he would emerge out into this such a wonderful, powerful human being? But despite his weaknesses and his shortcomings, he kept believing. We have stopped dreaming. Believe in your own people, even those people who don't live, who don't match up to your expectation. Believe in them. When you believe in them, they will rise up to the expectations. You know, people have told me that, Swamiji, unity and diversity is just a dream. I said, so what? Even landing on moon was just a dream once. But we did it. Landing on Mars seems a dream, but I think we'll do it. Colonizing Mars is a far-fetched dream, but because we dream, we reach there. And if you stop dreaming, it never happens. Do you ever feel that, do you ever believe that there'll be peace between North and South Korea? Because we don't believe, it never happens. Because we stop believing. If I ask you, do you ever feel that a whole month will go in your own home without a fight with your wife or your husband? See, you're already laughing. It means you don't believe. That means you'll always have a fight. The fact, if you believe, we will reach there, so I still believe that living is important. But as we dream, as we believe in the future of the nation, in our own company, in our own people, I think that gives us that extra edge to go forward. And when we dream and when we believe, God gives us the power to, despite our differences and dissimilarities, we rise and we will be able to create some form of unity. What I want to emphasize again at this moment is not just that we are here to talk about unity in diversity. They are not just pretty words from the website, and they are not romantic phrases. But I think we should all understand that if we really want to go somewhere, we need to take this. Why? Because I believe that I am a living proof of seeing a dream come true. When this idea of a temple in Abu Dhabi came, 1,000 people told us that it's not possible. An Islamic country giving land for a Hindu temple is not possible. For more than 200-300 years, Indians living in the Middle East were dreaming about a temple in the Middle East. When this temple was announced, I got an SMS from some local leader. He said, Swamiji, you have just transported me into the time when I once believed in fairies and supermen and superheroes. What fairies, supermen and superheroes could not do, you have been able to make a temple in Abu Dhabi. It is like a dream. We were recently in Russia, and when we were presenting everything to the Federation of Russia, they said that a temple in Abu Dhabi is nothing short of a miracle. But I also want to tell you, it's not just happened just like that. The Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and I deeply thank him for his generosity, not just gave us 2.5 acres of land, but 5, 13.5, then 13.5 acres more for parking, completely free, 27 acres of land to build a Hindu temple. I think we must appreciate him very deeply for the gesture and kindness. Our Prime Minister also participated in trying to do something special. But I also want to emphasize that what and how unity emerges. Imagine a Muslim country, a Muslim king, donating land for a Hindu temple. And who came forward to work completely in charity? A Christian Catholic, Michael, is our lead architect, and the chief consultant is a Chinese communist. All are participating in charity. If you have an idea and it's selfless and it's beyond yourself, then that idea has the power to bring the whole world together. Don't limit yourself into a small circle. And this temple is not just bringing people together, it's bringing two countries together, two communities together, two cultures together. So I want to tell you, it is possible. The problem with us is we have stopped dreaming and stopped believing. I also want to, in conclusion, tell you that I'm also presenting a similar dream that we have for South Africa. And the dream is, in a 14-acre land, BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha is trying on attempting to build a beautiful spiritual cultural complex, just like Abu Dhabi. Don't you think 1,000 people must have told us that the economy of South Africa is not right? There's so much uncertainty, there's so much change. And bringing in and investing something so substantial, bringing in culture, a permanent place. But I'll tell you, our spiritual head, Mahant Swami Maharaj, he personally believes in South Africa. This gesture of bringing a temple to this land is not just about a spiritual organization or a single religion. No. Go back to these values which I've just mentioned, which will create unity in diversity. More than our passion, it is His compassion. It will give room to compassion for all. More than just energy, it's synergy. It's going to bring in the energy of all the people, all different communities and castes to contribute to that temple, to create that place. More than just wealthiness, it will also create happiness for the people who come to that place. More than just, as I say, eventuality, there is a lot of spirituality that will energize and keep us stable. And it's also going to keep people dreaming about greater things. So I want to emphasize this temple is coming here, and it is a symbol and proof of our faith in this country, its economy, and in all of you who are together helping bring this nation higher and higher. I do believe that our Guru often says, when something good happens, it has the power to attract goodness. So I want to leave you with just one question. That of course all of us want to create unity in diversity. All of us want to take the higher moral ground. All of us want to lead the world in a different way. But I also want to tell you that there is one intriguing and very disturbing thought that keeps coming to my mind. And it's not the but. When somebody says but, I'm not saying but in this way, but it's something which is disturbing to all of us, and we should think as individual thinkers and leaders. You know, science tells us that on this earth, there have been 1 billion species. Figures may change, but 1 billion species. 99% have become extinct. So we are left with how much? 1%. We are trying to save, man is trying to save, environment. 99 have already become extinct percent. So of that 1 billion, they say around 10 million are present on this earth. Of that 10 million, approximately 1 million or 1.2 million have been documented. We are aware. I don't want to go into that percentage of the original. That's really crazy. And of that 1 million species which exist on this earth, we encounter, maybe 1,000 or so. Okay? We think we are the saviors of environment. Man must save environment. Against whom? Which species is endangering environment? Man. And we are out to save. Okay? So ultimately, my question is very gentle. That we worry about war. But ironically, we create them. None of these 1 billion species have ever created war. We bicker about borders. Ironically, we are the ones who create them. We are in constant tension about trade, industries. Ironically, no other species create trades and industries and money. We are constantly nagging and moaning about recession. But who creates them? None of the species on this earth has done anything. I'm not here to pin all the blame on man. I'm not here to man feel accountable for all the problems of the world. But I am here, and as I stand before you in this morning, I'm not here to make a man accountable for all the problems that we face, but I'm here to make man responsible for all the solutions that we need to find. I want to tell you, no matter who creates the fire, we need to put them out. No matter who takes away the light, we need to bring it back. No matter if our forefathers made the mistake or which country does not obey the law, as responsible citizens, we need to act, and we need to act smartly. I believe that diversity is our right, but I also believe unity is our responsibility. Thank you very much for being here this morning, because unity in diversity is not an option. Either we choose to flourish together or perish together. Either we choose and learn to live together or not live at all. Thank you very much.